What happens when one of the most beloved hairstylists in the industry sits down for what should be a friendly morning chat and instead faces a barrage of dismissive comments and condescending questions from a host who seems determined to undermine everything he stands for? It only took 40 seconds into the interview for the atmosphere to shift from warm and welcoming to ice cold and hostile, setting the stage for one of the most shocking confrontations ever broadcast on daytime television. Chris Appleton arrived at the studio that morning expecting a typical promotional appearance. He had been invited to discuss his new hair care line, share some styling tips, and talk about his work with various celebrities, the kind of segment he had done dozens of times before on talk shows around the world. But from the moment he walked onto the set and took his seat on the cream-colored sofa, something felt different. Lorraine Kelly sat across from him, flanked by two regular panelists. To her left was Sandra, a lifestyle columnist known for her sharp opinions on fashion and beauty trends. To her right was Marcus, an entertainment reporter who usually kept things light and breezy. The studio lights were bright, the cameras were rolling, and the live audience sat ready to enjoy another segment of their favorite morning show. "So, Chris Appleton," Lorraine began, her tone already carrying an edge that caught everyone off guard. "You are here to tell us about your hair products. Another celebrity hairstylist launching another product line. How exactly is yours different from the hundreds already out there?" Chris smiled politely, unfazed by the blunt opening. "Well, Lorraine, thank you for having me. What makes this line special is that it is actually born from years of working with different hair types and textures. Every product was developed because I saw a real need in the market." "A real need," Lorraine repeated, her eyebrows raised. "Or a real opportunity to make money off people who think they need to look like the celebrities you work with?" The smile on Chris's face faltered slightly. Sandra and Marcus exchanged quick glances, clearly surprised by their host's aggressive tone. This was not the usual warmth viewers expected from the show. "I think that is a bit unfair," Chris responded calmly. "These products are affordable and accessible. I wanted to create something that everyday people could actually use and benefit from." "Affordable?" Lorraine scoffed. £30 for a bottle of shampoo is affordable. Most people watching this show right now are probably using something that costs a quarter of that." Chris shifted in his seat. "Quality ingredients cost money, Lorraine. But compared to salon professional products, yes, this is positioned to be accessible." "Positioned to be accessible," Lorraine mocked, emphasizing each word. "You sound like a marketing brochure. Can you actually talk like a real person?" The audience had gone quiet. Sandra leaned forward slightly, as if she wanted to interject, but seemed uncertain whether she should. Marcus looked down at his notes, visibly uncomfortable. "I am talking like a real person," Chris said, his voice still controlled, but with a hint of frustration creeping in. "I'm trying to explain the thought process behind creating these products." "The thought process," Lorraine continued, her tone dripping with sarcasm. "Let me guess. You thought, I work with famous people. I have a following on social media. Why not slap my name on some bottles and watch the money roll in?" "That is not what happened at all," Chris replied, his composure beginning to crack. "I spent 2 years developing this line. I worked with chemists. I tested formulas. I listened to feedback from real people with real hair concerns." "Real people?" Lorraine laughed. "You mean celebrities. You mean people who have teams of stylists and unlimited budgets. That is your idea of real people?" Sandra finally spoke up. "Lorraine, I think Chris is trying to say that he consulted with a wide range of people during the development process." "Oh, Sandra, please," Lorraine snapped, turning to her panelist. "Do not defend this. We have seen this story 100 times. Celebrity sees an opportunity to make a quick profit, creates a product line, promotes it everywhere, and then disappears when the next trend comes along." Chris took a deep breath. "With all due respect, Lorraine, you do not know me. You do not know my work ethic or my commitment to this industry. I have been doing hair for over 20 years. 20 years, Lorraine interrupted. And how many of those years were you actually working with regular people versus chasing after celebrities and photo opportunities? I worked in salons for years before I ever worked with any celebrity, Chris said, his voice rising slightly. I built my career from the ground up. I did not have anything handed to me. Oh, here we go, Lorraine said, rolling her eyes dramatically. The humble beginning story. Everyone in your industry says the same thing. You all claim you started with nothing and worked your way up, but somehow you all end up in the same exclusive circles, attending the same parties, selling the same overpriced products to people who cannot afford them. Marcus cleared his throat nervously. Maybe we could talk about some of the specific products in the line. Chris, what would you recommend for someone with fine hair? Lorraine shot Marcus a withering look. We are not doing free advertising here, Marcus. This is supposed to be an interview, not a shopping channel segment. An interview involves asking questions and actually listening to the answers, Chris said firmly. So far, you have done nothing but attack me and make assumptions about my intentions. Attack you? Lorraine's voice went up an octave. I am asking you legitimate questions. If you cannot handle a bit of scrutiny, maybe you should not be sitting on this sofa. Scrutiny is fine, Chris responded, but what you are doing is not scrutiny. You are being dismissive and rude. There is a difference. The audience gasped audibly. No one spoke to Lorraine Kelly like that on her own show. Sandra's eyes went wide, and Marcus looked like he wanted to disappear into the cushions. Lorraine's face flushed red. Rude? You think I am being rude? I am doing my job. My job is to ask tough questions and not just sit here and nod along while you peddle your wares. Your job is also to be respectful to your guests, Chris shot back. I came here in good faith, excited to share something I have worked hard on, and you have done nothing but tear me down from the moment I sat down. Maybe there is a reason for that, Lorraine said coldly. Maybe I am tired of people like you coming on this show, using our platform to sell things, and acting like you are doing the world some great service. People like me? Chris repeated, his voice sharp. What exactly does that mean? Lorraine waved her hand dismissively. You know exactly what I mean. The influencer types, the celebrity-adjacent crowd, the ones who think they are more important than they actually are. Sandra tried again to mediate. I think we're getting a bit off track here. Chris has a successful career, and whether we personally would buy his products or not, there is clearly a market for them. A market of people with more money than sense, Lorraine muttered, but it was loud enough for the microphones to pick up. Chris stared at her in disbelief. Did you just insult your own viewers? I insulted people who waste their money on overpriced celebrity-endorsed nonsense, Lorraine clarified. If that includes some of our viewers, then perhaps they needed to hear it. This is unbelievable, Chris said, shaking his head. I have done interviews all over the world, and I have never been treated with such blatant disrespect. Then maybe you have been lucky up until now, Lorraine retorted. Maybe everyone else was too polite to say what they were really thinking. Or maybe everyone else understood basic professionalism, Chris countered. Lorraine leaned forward, her eyes narrowing. Let me tell you something about professionalism. Professionalism is not expecting everyone to fawn over you and your products just because you have styled some famous heads of hair. Professionalism is being able to handle criticism without throwing a tantrum. I am not throwing a tantrum, Chris said through gritted teeth. I am standing up for myself against a host who clearly had an agenda before I even walked through the door. An agenda? Lorraine laughed bitterly. My agenda is to have honest conversations. To not just roll over and let people use this show as a commercial for their latest money-making scheme. Money-making scheme? Chris's voice was incredulous. You are sitting here on a nationally televised show, getting paid to do this. You make money from advertisements during every commercial break. How dare you sit there and judge me for trying to build a business? Marcus tried to step in. Maybe we should take a quick break and regroup. No, Lorraine said firmly. We are live. There are no breaks. Chris wanted to come on this show, and now he is here. If he cannot handle the heat, he knows where the door is. Cannot handle the heat? Chris repeated. Lorraine, there is a difference between asking challenging questions and being outright hostile. You have crossed that line about 10 minutes ago. Oh, I have crossed the line? Lorraine's voice was mocking. You come onto my show, you sit on my sofa, and you have the audacity to tell me I have crossed a line. Yes, Chris said simply, because you have, and honestly, I feel sorry for you. The studio fell completely silent. Even the crew behind the cameras seemed to freeze. You feel sorry for me? Lorraine's voice was dangerously quiet. I do, Chris said, maintaining eye contact, because you clearly have some issue with me or people in my industry, and instead of having a mature conversation about it, you have chosen to spend this entire interview being condescending and mean-spirited. That says more about you than it does about me. Lorraine stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. How dare you psychoanalyze me on my own show? Chris remained seated, remarkably calm given the circumstances. I am not psychoanalyzing you. I am simply pointing out what everyone watching can see. You invited me here, and then you attacked me. Why? I did not attack you, Lorraine insisted, her voice getting louder. I asked you questions. No, you made accusations disguised as questions, Chris corrected. There is a difference. A question would be, tell me about your product line. An accusation is, you are just trying to rip people off, aren't you? Sandra nodded slightly, almost involuntarily, seeming to agree with Chris's assessment. Lorraine noticed and pointed at Sandra. Do not even start. You sit there every day agreeing with everything I say, and now you are going to take his side. I am not taking anyone's side, Sandra said quickly. I just think maybe we could all take a breath and start over. Start over? Lorraine was nearly shouting now. Why should I start over? He is the one who insulted me. He is the one who said I have issues. You do seem to have an issue with me, Chris said quietly, and I genuinely do not understand why. We have never met before today. I have done nothing to you. Yet from the moment I sat down, you have been hostile. I am hostile to people who I think are taking advantage of others, Lorraine said. I am hostile to people who I think are selling false promises. But you do not know anything about my products, Chris argued. You have not tried them. You have not researched them. You have not talked to anyone who has used them. Or you are making judgments based on nothing but your own prejudices. Prejudices? Lorraine's face was turning an alarming shade of red. Now you are calling me prejudiced? If the shoe fits, Chris said calmly. Marcus looked like he might faint. Sandra had her hand over her mouth. The audience was completely silent. Everyone watching this train wreck unfold in real time. Get out, Lorraine said suddenly. Chris blinked. What? Get out of my studio, Lorraine repeated, her voice shaking with anger. Get out of my show. I do not have to sit here and be insulted by someone like you. Someone like me, Chris said again. You keep saying that. Someone like me. What does that mean, Lorraine? Say it clearly. It means someone who thinks they are better than everyone else, Lorraine spat out. Someone who waltzes in here with their expensive clothes and their celebrity connections and expects everyone to worship at their feet. Chris stood up slowly. I never expected anyone to worship me. I expected basic respect, which is apparently too much to ask for on this show. Basic respect? Lorraine laughed harshly. You have done nothing but disrespect me since you opened your mouth. I defended myself, Chris corrected. There is a difference between disrespect and self-defense. Get out, Lorraine said again, pointing toward the exit. I want you out of this studio right now. Chris looked at Sandra and Marcus, both of whom looked utterly mortified. Then he looked back at Lorraine. You know what? I will gladly leave. I came here hoping to have a nice conversation, to share something I am proud of. and to connect with your viewers. Instead, I have been subjected to one of the most unprofessional interviews of my entire career. No one is forcing you to stay, Lorraine said coldly. You are right, Chris agreed. No one is forcing me to stay, and I refuse to sit here for one more second and be treated like this. He reached down and unclipped his microphone, placing it carefully on the coffee table. Thank you to the crew, who I am sure are just as embarrassed by this as everyone else watching. And Sandra, Marcus, I am sorry you had to witness this. Do not apologize to them, Lorraine snapped. They work for me. Which must be absolutely delightful, Chris said dryly. He turned to face the main camera. To anyone watching at home who was interested in learning about hair care today, I apologize that we did not get to have that conversation. Clearly, this was never about the products or helping anyone. This was about, he paused, looking back at Lorraine. Honestly, I still do not know what this was about. It was about holding people accountable, Lorraine said, but her voice had lost some of its earlier conviction. Accountable for what? Chris asked, genuinely seeming to want an answer. For trying to create a business? For working hard? For being successful? What exactly is my crime here, Lorraine? Lorraine opened her mouth, then closed it again. For the first time since the interview started, she seemed at a loss for words. Chris shook his head sadly. That is what I thought. You do not actually have a reason. You just decided before I even arrived that you were going to make this difficult. And you did. He picked up his phone from the table. I wish you all the best. I genuinely do. I hope whatever is making you so angry gets resolved. I am not angry, Lorraine protested weakly. Yes, you are, Chris said gently. And it is okay to be angry. But it is not okay to take it out on people who have done nothing to deserve it. With that, Chris turned and walked toward the studio exit. The cameras followed him as he moved past the crew members, some of whom gave him sympathetic looks. He pushed open the heavy studio door and walked through it, letting it swing closed behind him with a definitive thud. Back on the set, Lorraine stood frozen, her face a mixture of anger and something that might have been shame. Sandra and Marcus sat in stunned silence, neither knowing what to say or do. The audience remained quiet, the usual applause and chatter completely absent. Finally, Marcus spoke. Well, that was certainly unexpected. Sandra nodded. I think we all need a moment to process what just happened. Lorraine sat back down heavily in her chair. He was completely out of line. Lorraine, Sandra said carefully, I think you might want to consider that maybe, just maybe, you came on a bit strong. A bit strong? Marcus let out a nervous laugh. Sandra, you are the queen of understatement. Do not you start, Lorraine warned, but her voice lacked its earlier fire. I am not starting anything, Marcus said, holding up his hands. But Lorraine, I have worked on this show for 5 years, and I have never seen you go after a guest like that. What was that about? I was doing my job, Lorraine insisted. Your job is to interview people, not interrogate them, Sandra said softly. There is a difference. Not you too, Lorraine said, but she sounded more tired than angry now. Lorraine, I say this as someone who respects you and has worked with you for a long time, Sandra continued. That was not okay. That was not professional. And honestly, that was not fair. He said I had issues, Lorraine protested. Because you were acting like you did, Marcus said bluntly. Come on, Lorraine. You knew you were being harsh. We all knew it. The crew knew it. The audience knew it. The only person who seemed surprised by how that went is you. Lorraine looked out at the audience, many of whom were whispering to each other, their faces showing clear disapproval of what they had just witnessed. I was just trying to ask tough questions, she said, but even she did not sound convinced anymore. There is a difference between tough questions and being mean, Sandra said, and I am sorry, but you crossed that line early, and you kept crossing it. So what am I supposed to do now? Lorraine asked, and for the first time, she sounded genuinely uncertain. "I think you need to acknowledge what just happened," Marcus said. "I think you need to be honest with the viewers about how that went." Lorraine looked at the main camera, then looked away. "I do not know what to say." "How about the truth?" Sandra suggested. "How about admitting that maybe you let your personal feelings about celebrity culture or product lines or whatever it was cloud your judgment?" "I do not have personal feelings about him," Lorraine said. "But I do not even know him." "Exactly," Marcus said. "You do not know him, but you treated him like he had personally wronged you. Why?" Lorraine was quiet for a long moment. The studio remained silent, everyone waiting to see what she would say. "I do not know," she finally admitted. "I honestly do not know." "Well, that is something, I suppose," Sandra said. "At least you are being honest now." "This is a disaster," Lorraine said, putting her head in her hands. "This is going to be everywhere. People are going to talk about this for weeks." "They are definitely going to talk about it," Marcus agreed. "The question is, what are they going to be saying?" "That I am a bully," Lorraine said miserably. "That I was horrible to a guest for no reason. That I let my show turn into a circus." "You are not a bully," Sandra said, though her tone was not entirely convincing. You had a really bad moment. A really bad moment that was broadcast live to thousands of people," Lorraine said. "Hundreds of thousands," Marcus corrected. "Maybe millions, once the clip starts circulating online." "That is not helping, Marcus," Sandra said sharply. "I am just being realistic," Marcus said. "This is going to be huge. People love drama, especially when it involves someone as normally pleasant as Lorraine acting completely out of character." "Is it out of character, though?" Lorraine asked quietly. "Or is this who I am becoming?" Sandra reached over and touched Lorraine's arm. "You are having a bad day. We all have bad days." "Bad days do not usually involve attacking innocent guests on live television," Lorraine said. "He was not exactly innocent," Marcus started to say, then stopped when both women glared at him. "Okay, yes, he was innocent. He was completely innocent. He came here to talk about hair products, and you turned it into World War III." "Thank you for that summary, Marcus," Lorraine said dryly. "I am sorry, but it is true," Marcus said. "And you know what the worst part is? He handled it better than you did. He stayed calm. He stayed respectful, even when you were being awful to him. He made you look bad by simply refusing to stoop to your level." "I know," Lorraine said softly. "I know he did. And that somehow makes it even worse." "Because it means you cannot even claim he provoked you," Sandra said. "You cannot say you were just matching his energy or defending yourself. He did nothing wrong, and everyone saw it." "So what do I do?" Lorraine asked again. "I think you need to apologize," Sandra said. "Not to us, but to him. And probably to the viewers, too." "An apology is not going to fix this," Lorraine said. "No, it is not," Marcus agreed. "But it is a start. And right now, you need to start somewhere." Lorraine looked at the camera again, and this time she did not look away. The red light was still on, still recording everything, still broadcasting to everyone watching at home. "I think," she began, her voice uncertain, "I think I need to say something." "I think you do too," Sandra said encouragingly. Lorraine took a deep breath and faced the camera directly. "To everyone watching, I owe you an explanation. What you just saw was not how this show is supposed to go. Or that was not how I am supposed to treat guests. And I am truly sorry that you had to witness that." "That is good," Marcus whispered. "Chris Appleton came here today expecting a normal interview," Lorraine continued, her voice getting steadier. "And instead, I let my own issues, whatever they are, get in the way of doing my job properly. I was dismissive, I was rude, and I was unfair, and he did not deserve any of it." Sandra nodded approvingly. "I do not know why I acted the way I did," Lorraine admitted. "I wish I had a better explanation. I wish I could say there was some justification for my behavior, but there was not. I was wrong. Completely, utterly wrong. The audience was still silent, but some of the hostility in the air seemed to be dissipating. I hope Chris knows that my behavior today was not a reflection of him or his work, Lorraine said. It was a reflection of whatever is going on with me that I clearly need to address. She paused. I'm sorry. To Chris, to all of you watching, to my colleagues here who had to sit through that. I am truly, deeply sorry. That was brave, Sandra said softly. It was necessary, Lorraine corrected, and it still does not fix what I did. No, Marcus agreed, but it is something. It is better than nothing. Lorraine nodded slowly, then looked down at her hands. The confident, assertive host who had started the show was gone, replaced by someone who looked smaller, uncertain, and deeply shaken by her own actions. The camera continued to roll, capturing every moment of the aftermath, ensuring that this would be remembered, not just as the interview where a guest was kicked off, but as the moment when a beloved television host revealed a side of herself that no one wanted to see.